Hey everybody, it's Hero94 with another League of Legends video. Today we're going to be talking about the patch notes that are releasing today, that released yesterday. Today I got a few guests with me. We got Leon,
What up?
we got Shiro,
Hello.
and we got Fuse Force Spence over here.
Yo.
And so today we're just going to be talking about all the patch notes that have been coming out. It's a big patch note, so there's a lot of changes, a lot of good, a lot of bad. And we're just here to talk about that mostly. So we're gonna start from the top. And Leon, what do you think's the biggest change from the patch notes in your opinion?
I think the biggest change, in my opinion, is just like the whole nerf on Jace. It affects his gameplay a lot, and it definitely brings down his potential as a top laner.
Right on. Yeah, I definitely feel like the Jace nerf was too harsh. I don't think it's I don't know. I feel like the buff to his Q is definitely very good. I think he needed that beforehand. But 16 seconds at all ranks, I think that's just pushing it too far.
It's a little harsh, in my opinion, because you don't want to wait 16 seconds late game for an acceleration gate.
A follow-up question I have to that though is it 60 like how do any of you guys know like the cooldown on like something like Shirelia's Reverie that essentially does the same thing?
Shirelia's Reverie, I think it's 30 seconds.
So I guess like if we really want to talk about like it like being like too harsh of a penalty, like I mean, it essentially allows Jace to poke and it gives the entire team a potential for Shirelia's Reverie. I think that the cooldown was totally needed in my opinion as
See,
somebody.
see, I think 16 seconds is. I think 14 seconds is where it should be. I think 14 seconds would make it just good enough to still see play, but nerfed enough to allow himself to still
Be
not be
playable.
the strongest top as he is right now.
Activation is 60-second cooldown.
Oh, 60 seconds.
Yeah,
So
for Reverie.
I don't.
I still think that it just gives a little too much utility for like what it really is need like for what it does essentially. So like I'm really unsympathetic to like Jace getting nerfed.
Okay.
So
Yeah. I'm glad. That's a good thing you're in here because I'm a big Jace fan. So I guess I
Same
might be
here.
speaking a little biased, but
Maybe a little.
yeah,
yeah,
you know.
because I mean like you have what is essentially a potential Shirelia's Reverie with the poke. Then you also have Jace being able to disengage with his hammer. Like I mean he does so much that I'm like maybe a couple of cooldown increases here and there would not hurt.
Yeah. I definitely like the increase on his Q. The extra 100 movement speed should um, definitely make poking a lot easier now since his acceleration gate has such a long cooldown. Um, so what about you, Shiro? What do you think the most impactful or your favorite change about
So
the
So one of the biggest impacts that like I was really looking forward to in this patch was the change to Oracle's Elixir, where it doesn't get removed upon death. You still keep it, um, and the fact that you get the Oracle bearer gets money from all wards that are killed, even if they are not the ones that kill it. Like
exactly?
it's just going to help out supports a lot more with their gold management. So
I
being
agree.
being a support player, I do like that. There was a good point that I think Foxdrop made on who's a high level jungler who's like, well, great. Now the junglers are going to be expected to get the oracles as well, though, because of the low risk on getting oracles. No.
And I agree, but you got to remember before they added the time change to it, Oracles was purchased on junglers beforehand anyways.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's just a matter of adapting again and understanding that. I think it's going to be a mid game job for the jungler to buy oracles and a late game job for the late game for the support to buy it. I think that's all that's going to happen.
Mm.
I
And
feel
that's
like
understandable.
the change with the Oracle structure, it makes it a lot less harsher for teams to buy, just because there's such a high risk of buying it and then losing it if you end up dying. You still end up getting punished for dying, but it's not as harsh as before, which is nice.
Yeah, most definitely. And once again, you said the person with the oracles gets 50% of the gold no matter who takes it. That's also the same with pink wards. Yes,
Hmm.
and they did up the value of wards also in this patch, which is really nice. They upped them 5 gold on all the wards.
So they're 80.
So no. I'm sorry. The kill price before you used to get 25 a ward. Now you get 30.
Okay.
Then on Wriggles you used to get 15. Now you get 20. So you get a little extra gold also.
Okay.
So that's pretty nice. They did nerf the range on it a little bit, which is understandable. And I think that was all they really did. And to me that's a huge change. Oracles has been a little weak in my opinion since it's been released. I think with this change though, it's on its way to becoming a really strong item again.
Feels a lot more viable than it was before.
Most
Before.
definitely. Most definitely.
Because 400 gold is a lot as a support or a jungler if you're behind.
I agree. It's definitely. Tyler, Mr. Fuse 4, Spence. What was your most impactful change you think?
There was a couple really that I really enjoyed. Now, mostly as a viewer, what stood out to me was the change to Draven. Now, this was a huge thing only because a change to his passive entirely. Now, as many know, he got his own new passive based on his character more, the League of Draven. And as he catches his axes, he gets a stack of adoration, and that helps get him more gold. And if he ends up failing, then he loses gold. It sounds like it's a lot more relatable to his character, his arrogance, he's a hunter for hire, basically, that kind of stuff.
Oh, I
A hot
definitely
shot
feel
of the
like
league.
yeah. This passive definitely synergizes and works better with his character.
And it
Is it
makes
a
it more fair too,
is it a
because
buff? No.
well,
It's a
Oh,
nerf.
oh,
It's a
oh,
nerf.
oh, oh, oh.
It's a nerf.
You know
I
what? I think that it goes both ways because
Yeah.
this buff is really a snowball buff because
mhm.
it rewards you on getting kills. It rewards you even more for getting kills. So if you just keep on getting those kills, it'll just snowball Draven so much harder than previously.
He'll gain so much
Whereas,
gold.
but it could also be a nerf. If you don't get those kills, jeez,
It's all downhill
you're
from there.
done.
See,
You are
and
done.
something to realize is his passive is an early game monster. Mid and late game, it does a lot less. Early game, it's just ridiculous amounts of damage, and
He can
that's
be such a bully early on. That's what I've
and
always
see,
had trouble with.
and now that they took that away from him, I don't know if he's necessarily gonna be as good because Draven's never had a good team fight. Because Draven is probably the weakest AD carry in team fights. I can't really think of anybody right now besides him. In two v
And
twos, three v two, anybody else like that where it's less chaotic and he has more chance to catch his spinning axes. That's where he shines. In team fights, he has a lot more trouble. So we'll have to see how this works out. In my personal opinion, I'm saying nerf.
Probably so, but I think it's a fair one at that because honestly, taking away the fact that he can be such an insane bully early on means that people have to play him a bit more smart, and that also means that it'll be more fair to those against him, if you ask me.
I think with this passive change, like it makes Draven a lot less random with his kills. Because if you notice, a lot of the kills that he gets in like LCS or something like that is usually from his bleed, just because like, oh, you're bleeding and you don't notice it until you're dead. Because it's so like insignificant with his crits or his axes, in my opinion. So I feel like this passive is just gonna give him some more consistency with his plays, and definitely is gonna make him a little bit more smarter when he's playing.
There was also one more thing that kind of caught. It was just a tiny thing that caught my eye. Since I'm often a support player and in general of Morgana, I love playing her. But then I did notice this. There was a bug which they're fixing in this patch where her Dark Binding move wouldn't properly snare stealth champions. Now, whenever I used it, I would notice this sometimes when playing characters that were in stealth. Something
Like
just
me or
seemed off.
something.
Yeah, exactly. And it just seemed like what the hell? Like why didn't that work? You know?
Yeah, it definitely helps Morgana with her consistency in play.
I agree.
Yeah. Is there any other like
Uh,
things?
I was just gonna go down the line now after discussing your guys' main ones.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I definitely feel like we'll just start from the top here now. So first things first, Brand got a little change, as you all know. Um, Brand's been pretty weak lately, so I really like the fact that they did this for him.
Do you think it's enough though?
I
Yeah,
think it might not be enough. I don't think it's enough. I think he's gonna start seeing a lot more play though, because his biggest concern was his mana costs, and now that they nerfed that, I think early game he just loses to a lot of mids. That's his big issue. He loses
Yeah.
because it's too hard. Mids are too mobile right now, and he can't keep up.
the thing
Yeah.
is,
So
they're also mobile. He can't land his spells, which is kind of annoying.
Exactly.
yeah, like I don't think it's enough. Like, I was comparing Brand to like somebody like Oriana or Ari, and while it's nice that he could throw out a lot more spells because they cost less, it doesn't really fix, like you said, Moose, the problem that he has, which is like, oh well, if I throw out my spells, but that person's like 400 whatever units
Movements.
League of Legends uses.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
Or he's like landing against an Eye or something like that, where she's just really mobile after they hit 6.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
So
think this is honestly going to be one of those wait and see kind of deals. I do see what you mean, how it may not be enough, but at least, like you said, a lot more
it's a
people will be
start.
trying it. People will be trying him more to see if this is a good fix, if it's enough, and maybe people will be able to be more effective with him.
yeah.
Yep. And that's exactly where everything starts. Patch comes out, it's a start. They realize it's not enough, they add more, or they take more away. It can go both ways. So.
His scaling is really dumb with AP. Like, he does so much damage.
Oh, most definitely, his damage is ridiculous. He has one of the best with his pyroclasm. He just destroys people. So in team fights, he's amazing, but he loses lane really hard.
Mhm.
Next on the list, we got Corki, and I'm really excited for this because Corki is one of my favorite champions. What they did was has always had mana issues, and so they nerfed the mana on his Valkyrie and his Missile Barrage.
Thank God.
God,
Um,
yeah, like you went so fast with the
see,
Missile Barrage.
because the issue, well, Missile Barrage, yes, but the issue is his Q starts at 80 mana or 70 mana and a max level to 120. So it
Jesus.
costs so much mana to Q that you'd Q like twice, and now you can no longer Valkyrie away because Valkyrie was always 100 mana. They nerfed that now to 50 mana, which to me is like ridiculous. To me, that might even be too low. Like it's kind of dumb.
I think it
Cause
it
go ahead.
makes him more flexible in his fights because it means he can spend more mana on his spells and not have to worry about, oh, do I have enough mana to Valkyrie away or something like that.
Yeah, he was really annoying with that kind of thing. Like I did try him a couple times. He's never really been my style, but I did notice that how his mana reliancy was such a hindrance to him.
Yeah. Because
I also
for
think that
go ahead.
I also think that it puts him more in line with the other AD carries that have their escapes. They don't have to worry about their mana so much, like their like mana management, because it's like, oh, okay, well, I'll just like Caitlyn, I'll just throw my Qs a couple of times out and I'll have enough mana for my E. That way, Corki can at least have that option to Valkyrie out after he uses his Q maybe a couple of times.
Exactly. Because I think Caitlyn's net's only about 60 or 70 mana or so.
Hmm.
Ezreal's E is 100 mana, much like Corki's. But the difference between Ezreal and Corki is Ezreal's other spells cost significantly less. So
Hmm.
his Ezreal's Q's is like 20 mana and goes up to like 40 or something. Like it's really dumb. Then Missile Barrage changed to 20 mana, which is really nice because at level 16 it was 40 mana. So that'll allow him to just spam a lot more.
It's also a pretty good change considering one of the things that we'll eventually get to, which is the nerf to tier and Manamuna in
Yep.
general.
I was
Since that
act-
doesn't stack up.
That's exactly what I was gonna say because normally right now with his current mana issues, Tier is a really good item on him. I think with these mana changes, I don't know if Tier will necessarily be needed anymore. I still don't think it was needed. It's needed now, but I'm a personal fan of it. So,
Hmm.
Draven we already discussed his new passive. So we'll just go over him. Evelyn, Agony's Embrace, fixed the bug. So basically just a visual change. Who gives a fuck?
Well, wonderful.
Yeah.
Hecarim.
Hecarim.
Make it look good.
Hecarim. So Hecarim, they changed his mana costs
I
once
feel like
again.
it's gives him a little bit more edge in consistency play because if it's just 25 flat, that feels unfair in my
No,
opinion.
yeah, you know what? I kind of agree. I feel like the nerfs they already gave him though from last patch were kind of enough because Hecarim play has dropped dramatically in everywhere. I think this nerf wasn't needed.
Really now.
I really do. I really don't think it was needed.
Honestly, as one of Hecarim's many victims, I kind of have a sick pleasure in seeing this kind of nerf done to him. I won't lie. But honestly, I do think that he kind of had it easy at times, and maybe this will make it a little more fair. But I don't know. I think it's another one of those we have to wait and see how it impacts his gameplay in future matches.
I'm gonna have to agree with Moose. Like, I mean, I haven't seen too much Hecarim play after the last round of nerfs. This one, I'm not sure exactly if it's that much of a nerf, to be quite honest, but it will still, like, mitigate the Hecarim play. Like, he's no longer a ban anymore at, like, the silver level elo. So,
Yeah. Yeah, and I kind of agree with that. You got to remember Rampage is his Q, which is his most spammable move. So the fact that it goes up that much mana just is gonna it's gonna have a lot of mana issues I think for him.
what is
So
the cooldown on his Q?
I believe it's 3 or 4 seconds. Then every time, give me a
I
second.
think it's like 3 seconds.
I
And
got
every
it.
single hit something is like 2 or something like
It
that.
is a cooldown of 4 seconds, and every time you have a stack on it, you can have up to 2 stacks. It reduces it by a second. So you can basically have it 2 second cooldown if you have 2 stacks up.
Okay, so I see how it can be really cost inefficient if they're... okay.
It makes him a lot more blue buff reliant, I think.
Yeah. So that's that. Once again,
Bug
what else?
fixes.
Janna bug fixes. Yay, bug fixes.
Woo!
They're relevant to some people, you know?
I've played Janna many times, so I've seen this little bug sometimes, and it can be kind of confusing if it doesn't match the channeling time, the icon countdown. So it's a little nitpicky stuff that they're fixing right now.
Yeah, I've never noticed. I don't play much support, so I haven't noticed it myself. My poor Jace nerfs below Janna.
Oh god.
Uh,
Good. Needed it.
It is absolutely true.
Just
He
grit your
really
teeth
did
and bear it, Hector.
yeah, it's unfortunate, but hey, it had to happen. I do agree. Jace was too strong. Jace was probably the only top, like one of the only tops that you could carry with. Because in my opinion, top is in actual 5v5 play, top is a very hard lane to carry from. So
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I do think this also will inspire Jace lovers to try harder to accommodate for these nerfs. So we'll see how you handle it.
we'll see. We'll see. So Kale, once again another little change. AOE effects no longer affect towers. I never knew that was going on her Righteous Fury.
Yeah, I never
never
saw
knew that?
that. Either.
I
didn't
knew
know,
that.
I didn't
It
actually know
was-
that.
It was really annoying.
It was great when you were the Kale and trying to split push, but... Yeah.
It is really annoying. Because you have like one of those moments where you're just attacking the turret and you don't mean to hit the other champion. You're just like, I'm getting attacked now. Can't do anything.
That seems pretty awesome though. Kennen actually, I've been expecting these changes for a while because Kennen's been a little too good for a little too long.
These nerfs make me really sad. Because I've
Yeah.
been playing Kennen for a while now.
And see, I'm a huge Kennen fan, but I feel like they were kind of needed. So, once again, his basic attack damage at level 1 was reduced to 50.5 from 54.6. So that's a whole 5 damage. It's 4.1 damage reduction. And that's extremely good because Kennen's just buying Doran's Blade, just punching you in the face with ninja stars, and it
And then
hurts.
very little AP and just like destroys your team with his ult.
Exactly. They also changed his passive from 8 I'm sorry, not... Yes, passive. So
It's
anytime
passive.
you have a mark on someone, it lasts 8 seconds, and you can refresh it with another mark. If you get 3 marks, they're stunned. So they make it so each mark only lasts 6 seconds now from 8. What's your guys' thoughts on those?
I feel like it means that you're not gonna get constantly locked on by Cannon, because the problem with him is just that the marks kept on you for so long that he had a chance to get his cooldowns back and stun you over and over again, and it made ganks against him or on his lane opponent a lot easier. But
Nobody-
that's just my opinion.
Yeah. Nobody else? Nobody else has anything? on that?
I kind of agree with the developers. Kind of what they put on as a little note for this change, how they've turned down some of his early harass, since he has so much potential in team fights. I think it kind of helps a Kennen player to work with their team better to ensure that more gets done. Maybe. I mean,
I do agree that it was too strong because with I think it's 20% cooldown reduction. You can actually land a W on somebody, which is anybody who has a mark, you deal damage to them and land the second mark, and with you could have it to a 7.2 second cooldown, I believe it is with 20% cooldown. So you can actually land 2 Ws before the mark even goes away, which is just kind of bullshit.
And then
Yeah.
refresh the counter or time counter on the mark too,
Exactly.
which is
I think-
ridiculous.
I think it's a pretty good nerf. Like, I mean, the Mark of the Storm one. I really have no opinion on base attack damage because, I mean, you can kind of, like... it's a good nerf. But as far as Mark of the Storm, I think it'll make Kennen players a little bit more, what's it called? Faster paced in their gameplay to get those marks on the person. And it also allows the opponent to, like, have a little bit of counterplay by saying, okay, I'm just going to back off here for 6 seconds and then I can get right back in.
I do agree.
Yeah.
I think it's a good change. I do feel like it's an overall good change because Kennen's a little strong in lane for what he can do late game. So once again, we got LeBlanc, and there's a lot of changes to LeBlanc, which make me
Holy
very happy. So
yeah, I have no opinion on LeBlanc because LeBlanc is one of those characters that you either know how to play or you do not.
And
I fall in the do not.
I love how to play her. I have a lot of fun. So they may have a lot of changes with her. Her mirror image, which is her passive, which makes it so when you drop under, I want to say 30% life, you make an image of yourself. Something that was always an issue though, your image just stands there when you die, when it gets to that point, which was always really annoying. You could hold Alt and right click and have a move, but the game didn't always understand to do that as it turned.
makes it a little
into,
less obvious
yeah.
for sure.
So now what they did is the moment the mirror edge the mirror image gets activated, it instantly starts running away.
So like it basically does mimic your movement.
I don't know if it
Cancel.
mimics your movement because currently it doesn't mimic your movement. It currently just
From what I understood, what it mimic does, I mean not mimic, mirror image, it will go back to base, similar
Okay.
to what happens to when a person DCs. So
That makes sense. Going back, because the way I thought they do it is it would start running the opposite direction of whatever damaged it, not activated it. But I think going back to base might be a little more consistent, or I guess that might be the word. No, a little more relevant to like each play because sometimes you're too far extended and yeah.
Yeah,
that was
definitely.
based on the last time that I heard how they changed it on PvE. So maybe it's what you said, and it's like the opposite direction of the damage dealing source.
Yeah, because that would also make a lot of sense. Because then, for escapes and stuff like that. So, so they changed literally her whole kit. So, well, they didn't change. They tweaked everything, I should say. Her Q, Sigil of Silence. Now, people were getting rewarded too much for just landing a Sigil of Silence and not actually propping the second effect that goes off of it. So what they did was they buffed the secondary damage, which is when you land a second spell on someone, up a notch, and they nerfed the initial damage.
Okay.
To me, that's awesome because it punishes better players. I mean, it rewards better players and punishes worse players.
That aren't following up their abilities with Sigil of Silence.
Yeah, because what a lot of people would do is they'd press Q, which is her Sigil of Silence, and R, which is her mimic. But then the Q would do damage, pop it, and then the R would do damage. And they don't care about popping the R because the R would do so much damage already from the initial, it didn't really matter. Now, it probably will matter a little bit. They also nerfed the silence on it from 2 seconds to 1.5.
Thank God.
Yeah, It was really
Like
good.
that silence was so long. It was ridiculous.
Well, it was so long because you'd get silence from her Q, then you'd get silence from her R if someone was really good. So yeah,
Just like sit there useless. It was
exactly.
dumb.
Her distortion, which is her W, the cooldown. They did this with a few spells actually. The cooldown is now starts the moment you cast the spell, rather than when the spell goes away or you get returned to the location. That's really nice. They also increased the mana on it from 80 at all levels to scale from 80 to 120, going 20, 20 plus 20 mana level.
Fixed up where
Yep.
distortion was visible in the fog of war. Huh.
Yeah. Basically, a lot of times what would happen is I'd W over a wall, then you'd run away, and then you could still see my mark there. And
Okay.
that was just kind of giving away positioning sometimes and doing stuff like that.
It makes it she's more like trickster.
Exactly. It's a little harder to realize where she's at when she's in Fog of War.
Yeah.
Her ethereal change, which is her E, basically the slow duration and the time until root. So before it used to take 2 seconds from when you get chained to get rooted. Now it only takes 1.5, and you're also slowed for only 1.5. Root duration got changed from 1.5 seconds at all level to scale from 1 second to 2.2. So that's not too bad.
I think it will reward people for ranking him earlier instead of just
Exactly.
leaving it at
Is
an
it-
early rank.
Exactly, because it also reduces cooldown now. Before, her cooldowns have always been really good. Her cooldowns have basically always been a static cooldown, never actually decreased with putting points into it. And they're changing that now a little bit with her E. They made her E start at 14 and end at 8, dropping at 2 seconds every time you put a point into it. Or I'm sorry,
Uh,
1.5.
yeah, some of
Or
that.
1.5. So that's not too bad. Her Mimic is now 0 mana at all levels. Very nice.
Jesus.
Yeah, very nice. And they also just completely changed Mimic, because Mimic used to boost your current spell by... I'll get the percentage in a minute, but they used to boost your spell by just a certain amount. Now they each have their own numbers. It's very nice. Do you want to talk a little more about that, PF?
I
Or
mean,
it's your show?
the whole mimic thing. I don't play LeBlanc enough to actually know about it. So
Okay. Well, basically before, all her spells basically just did like an extra 30% damage, I believe it was.
dang.
Yeah, I believe it was just an extra 30% damage of what the base spells were. Now, let me get this exact number. Actually, it's not going to show me now because the patch change. So regardless, we'll ignore that. Now they each have their own damage. So her new Q deals 100, 200, 300 with a 0.65 ability power. And if it's popped, it does the same amount of damage. Her standard Q does 50 to 155. So as you can see, it's like double the power and strength. It's pretty ridiculous.
Double the power.
Double the power, double the damage.
I think with the change on LeBlanc, it again. I remember watching the patch preview and they're saying like how people would just rank you no matter what. I think
Yeah.
with this change, it'll open up new paths for LeBlancs, so they have a little bit more inching room in their builds. So just like max Q, whatever kind of thing.
Most definitely, yeah. Her ultimate, basically at max level of everything, deals nearly double the damage of the standard version of the spell.
Okay.
So it's pretty ridiculous. Um, it looks pretty strong.
Do you think this will do anything to like her damage, or do you think it's like
I think her
alright?
damage will be going up. Her damage is definitely going up with this change. If you properly use all your spells the way they need to be, your damage will definitely increase. Your utility will see. It's a lot of her spells are like hit or miss. Like the root now on her E got nerfed a little bit. In my opinion, sure it only takes 1.5 seconds to root you, but it also used to slow. So having a 2 second chain wasn't that bad.
However, it also took 2 seconds to root you, so it was easier to escape. So
That is true. It's essentially easier to escape, but LeBlanc has so much mobility that it was really hard to escape.
Yeah.
That's that's the thing.
But isn't
So
her chain like a stupid like length to get out of?
yes, it's ridiculous length. And something to remember is the Q pops the spell on the cast of getting hit and on the explosion of getting rooted.
Hmm.
So if you Q someone, hit them with their E, then Well, okay, you can Q them, R them, hit them with their E. And if you hit them with the E, like before the R actually like gets to them, because I've done that before, then the E pop will activate the R explosion.
Huh.
There's a lot of like crazy ridiculousness to do with LeBlanc, so
Because you have to
just
stack things.
yeah. Honestly, I'm calling it a buff.
Yeah.
Easily a buff. It's gonna open up more changes. It's gonna punish weaker players with LeBlanc. I think it's gonna be much harder for just anybody to pick her and just win mid, which I
Hmm.
really like. So we'll just have to see what happens.
It adds more skill to our gameplay.
So, coming from a person that does not play LeBlanc and usually only plays against LeBlanc, is there anything like playstyle-wise that a person going against LeBlanc has to change in light of these, in light of the patch notes?
So something before you know she's ranking Q, you know that instantly she's ranking Q. Now
Mhm.
you don't know necessarily what she's ranking Q. Q might still be the correct rank, and I personally think it probably still is. But I need to test it to know for sure. So I think from right now, from what I can see, you need to realize what she's ranking up and play according to that. Because if she's ranking up W, she's going to be a lot more mobile, and you got to make sure you dodge that. That's going to be the big thing. You got to make sure you get probably early movement speed against that. And if she's ranking Q, you probably want to get early magic resist.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think against LeBlanc, you want to realize that. You want to realize what she's leveling up, and that'll help you play against her much easier.
Okay, but from a like a macro scale, like she hasn't changed at all. She's gonna be like still the oh my god, I'm gonna burst you so early you're gonna
All her
die.
spells have the same animation, the same cast, the same everything. So she will still be face roll your keyboard in the correct order, and you're dead.
All right.
But it's what order is the correct order that people need to figure out.
Because that's what all LeBlancs do. They just smash their
Because so,
face against the
I've
wall.
seen people do Q, W, and then all of a sudden they press R, and they're just like, "Holy crap! I meant to mimic my Q," and they face roll their faces because they are bad. So yeah, that's basically LeBlanc. Super excited to play her. And we'll have to see what happens.
We'll see if she sees any play whatsoever.
Whatsoever. Next on the list, we got Malzahar
Call
and
them.
Call of the Void.
It now provides a little bit more utility.
Yeah.
Because
I
now
think
you
that was
can check
definitely... Go
you can
ahead.
check bushes now and see who's in it. So
So you'll get bursted? Or something like that.
I mean, you're still gonna get bursted because the range on that is not that great. But,
That's true.
well, I mean, there could be silence though, but like I mean, if they're fast enough, they can pull something off.
Yeah.
And then Malefic Vision, that's a nice bug fix too.
Exactly.
Nothing
So
too major, but nice things overall.
speaking of bug fixes, Master Yi Morgana, they fixed bugs on them where Master Yi wasn't properly getting stacks with a Rage Blade and Morgana, where she couldn't hit stealth units with her Q, her Dark Binding.
Right. The double strike isn't necessarily that huge of a deal for Master Yi because I don't think Rage Blade was that big of a deal.
Yeah.
I can't think of the last time I ever saw a Rage Blade. Actually, I can't even think of the last time I saw a Rage Blade.
Yeah.
That's a season 2 item right there, and you only got it when Kale was really broken. So.
Yeesh.
The Nasus, I think that's pretty nice. They're gonna start displaying his Q buff. They're gonna start displaying his Q bonus damage as a buff, so anybody, no matter what team you're on, can see what it's at.
Oh,
That's
nice.
yeah, that's fair enough.
Yeah, seems pretty solid.
It makes you more aware of Nast's potential damage as a farmer.
Exactly. Nautilus Dredgeline
Naughty Nautilus.
no longer travels through some walls. I didn't even know about
Huge
that.
nerf. Huge nerf if you knew where to like throw that anchor.
I didn't even know that was possible.
I didn't know either.
Yeah, it allowed you to like circumvent a couple of walls that like you could essentially catch up with people that had a flash and stuff. So
That's crazy.
That is
like
stupid.
there is a video showing like which walls you could do that with. So I
It's
would
probably
suggest
like
checking.
over the dragon wall in that one place where everybody can go over, right?
No, that wasn't it. They're
Oh
weird
man.
walls. Like
Okay.
on near the Baron Pit that there's like a a wall that covers like, you know, okay.
I'll watch
so,
the video.
Yeah, watch the video.
Uh, we'll throw a video of this in the description also because why the hell not?
Yeah, like seriously, watch the video and you'll be like, why didn't I do that?
Big change in my opinion. I think this was needed. Nunu got nerfed.
Oh
It's
my
not
god,
enough
thank
in my
you.
Fuck that champion. They nerfed his health to he gets 96 a level now instead of 108, which is huge. Because that means at level 18 he's getting like 100 and derpy math. Derpy math. Oh, I'm sorry. He's losing a thousand like change.
Change health?
1,160. He's losing 1,160 health at level 18.
Huh.
That took me too long to do that basic math. Sorry, guys. Yeah, shut up.
And then the consume damage.
Consume
I don't
damage.
think it's... Shiro said it's not enough. I don't know.
I think it's enough. The reason
Okay,
why...
so,
Go ahead. I want to hear yours first.
okay, so like my version of the story is it does not prevent him from just totally taking out a jungler in the early game. And that is a fucking shitty thing to do.
It
Like, I mean,
does.
it's a pretty asshole character right now.
Okay.
Like, I mean, I could care less about what happens to him in the late game as a result.
This is my thing. Smite does 515.
Okay.
Mhm.
It's higher than his level 1 consume. The big issue with Nunu that people were having issues with is Nunu at level 1 could out-consume someone's smite. And that is no longer doable. In my opinion, they should make his consume level 1 450 and let it scale up to 1,000 or scale up to 900 because 1,000's a little ridiculous again. Because the reason why it's a little ridiculous is because you can do Baron at level like 9 with Nunu because he just keeps consuming it for 1,000 damage over and over and over again, which is retarded.
And you're just like, I'm going to attack early Baron or early Dragon or something like that.
Exactly. So I feel like they might need to nerf his consume a little bit more, but I think that's a pretty good nerf overall. The fact that it's lower than Smite at level 1 and the fact that they nerfed his health per level.
Yeah.
But it's still a very useful skill.
Definitely. So next is Orianna. I think this is pretty big. This way people are no longer giving themselves sombreros when they activate her R.
Yeah.
'Cause people like to do that. So her command protect, which is her E, now gains a passive range indicator that shows the range at which her ball will return to her when attached to an ally champion. So now when you throw your ball on a Malphite ultis in, and then you press R and you realize, wait, the ball's above my head. Sombrero! Hopefully now you will have ranges on this, so you no longer do that.
You're more apparent to it.
I honestly don't think that will prevent enough sombreros.
I don't think it will either because you will always have them silver players who just don't understand.
Hey, you're a silver player too, bro.
Shut up. We're working on that. You know, I jumped up 2 divisions in like a day and a half, okay?
Wait, you're in Silver 3?
I'm in Silver 3.
Oh, wow. I'm actually impressed.
Yeah, dude, I only solo queue now. Fuck duo queues. I lose with the duos.
Fair enough, fair enough.
It's bad. So, once again, more bug fixes. Pantheon, his Q wouldn't scale properly when people were under 15% health with his crit off his E. So they just made it so that definitely happens now. Riven used to be able to get extra auto attacks, extra chains with her broken wings. She could like jump more than 3 times. Fix that. And yeah, it was really weird. I used to be able to jump 4 times if you did like something in the correct sequence. I never really understood it. I've seen it before though. Shen, they've did a visual effect, wasn't properly appearing, whatever.
Whoop-de-doo.
Yeah.
I don't know if my key strike is up, bro. I
Yeah.
totally need to know when it's up at the beginning of the game.
Yeah. And here's a change to a champion that's been needing a lot of love for a very long time. Shyvana. I don't know if this is necessarily enough, if this is necessarily good, bad. I don't play Shyvana, never have, never wanted to.
I have, and it is Like, I want her to be buffed so much. She is so useless now in Season 3.
Do you think these changes are... You go ahead and talk about these changes, what you think about them as you go ahead, and tell us what you thought about them when you read them.
Well, when I was reading them, I honestly don't feel like the bonus armor and magic resistance is enough, because in most team fights, you're gonna be diving against their AD carry anyway, and you need a lot of that resistance just to keep on them. I feel like they should at least buff it to 10 first ranked and so forth, or something like that, so that it gives you a little bit more survivability and on the fight. The flame breath damage is kind of meh. The armor reduction kind of matters sometimes when you're dueling with people, and like I think they need to give her some kind of buff on her burnout, because in today's jungle there's too much health on the biggest minion anyway, and her burnout's not gonna matter anyway. So I feel like they need to change that or change her kit a little bit before she's playable in like games again.
That makes sense. Okay.
I don't know. I love Shyvana when she was
Something
actually playable.
something I did notice though, they also made it. They did a few things. You know, obviously her flame breath. They removed the armor reduction. They increased the damage. The duration lasted a little bit less, but they upped the damage on hit in my opinion. But the big thing to me that I don't know if a lot of people realize is, sure, her Dragonborn is 5, 10, 15, 20 armor. It's double in Dragon, which is really nice. But when she's in Dragon form, or I'm sorry, Passive Fury, her Passive Fury gains off Dragon's Descent is increased to 1, 2, and 3. So at level 16, she's getting 3 Fury a second, or per 1.5 seconds instead of just the usual 1.
Yeah.
That'll make her Dragon form up a lot more, and I think that was a pretty big buff.
Yeah. I totally forgot to mention that.
Yeah. And they also dropped the Fury Decay while in Dragon form, reduced to 5 per second from 6 per second, so you can stay in Dragon form a little bit longer also. So I think overall it was definitely a buff because of those things.
I don't
But
think it's enough to push her over the
I
edge yet.
yeah, I don't think it's enough to actually make her viable. I think because of the extra armor that she gets even at level 1, she will be able to clear a lot easier, not take as much punish.
Hmm.
But once again, not the best of changes. I think they need a little more before she becomes actual viable.
Yeah.
Um, so they fixed the tooltip on Thresh. Whoop-de-doo.
Woo.
Twitch.
Tips.
Yeah,
The big thing that I want to comment on Thresh, though, is like if you're looking at the tooltip right when death sentence is used, I don't think you're going to be able to read that fast, to be quite honest.
I think it's more of like the flavor thing for like those obsessed people.
Most definitely.
All right, there you go, obsessed people.
Shout outs to obsessed people.
Shout outs. We got your back at Riot Games.
Uh, Twitch. So his ambush, which is stealth. They fixed the bug where he could revive in stealth while Guardian Angel or Chrono Trigger was not Chrono Trigger. Chrono Shift. Chrono Shift was on him.
A weapon named Chrono Trigger? Jesus Christ, I just buy that for the sake of it.
Oh yeah. So basically, he would start when he was in the animation of turning stealth. If he died, he would revive stealth if he was revived by Guardian Angel or Chrono Shift. So that's something that's pretty nice. My
That's
personal change in this whole patch, my favorite nerf, was this bug fix. Actually, well, it's in my opinion, it's kind of a bug fix because it should have been like this from the start. Her stealth from Vayne's final hour, which allowed her to turn stealth after every Q. Before she would be able to auto attack, and she wouldn't be revealed from stealth until about mid auto attack animation. Now, her stealth will probably be broken upon launching a basic attack instead of like how before, where the basic attack could be like
Mid-flight.
mid flight towards you, and then she'd break stealth. So that's definitely a huge nerf because it happened quite often.
It was just really annoying.
Yeah, it's just very very frustrating. So that was huge to me.
Elastic slingshot, go!
Yes, Zac with Elastic Slingshot. They fixed the bug where aiming it preemptively could break target spell shields. I never noticed that in my many of games playing Zac. but I have noticed many of his elastic slingshot bug jumps. So I'm
Yes.
hoping they also secretively fix those.
I have seen you fail on that bot jumps so often.
Oh, we don't want to talk about that. We don't want to talk about that. The final champion to be changed here was Ziggs. And
That's inaccurate. There were some other champions, but I'll leave that till later.
there were some other champions.
Don't worry about it. We'll get to them as we go down.
Other champions, apparently.
Yeah.
I lied. You're right, Jimmy. There was other champions. You're right. I realize now. My mistakes. I was mistaken. Ziggs. In my opinion, overall, awesomeness. I think Ziggs is a really awesome character with a lot of flavor. I love his design. So they changed his satchel charge quite a bit to help people with high latency issues and just to help him be more of a skill, increase his skill cap a little bit. So now you can activate his satchel charge mid-flight so it detonates the moment it lands. And that's really useful for people with high latency because many times they throw it directly underneath them and it wouldn't explode until like a second after it lands because you couldn't actually hit the button before then. So that's nice. They increased the missile speed from 1600 to 1750. Gets to location faster. Always nice. The knockback damage got increased by plus 50, so from 350 to 400. I've seen some pro-ass fucking Zig jumps. I've seen Zig jumps jump over things I thought weren't even possible to jump over. So now that they increased that by 50, bring it on, because this is going to
Makes
get
it
even
easier.
crazier. It's going to get even crazier. And the cooldown now, once again, starts on the cast and not when it detonates, much like LeBlanc.
Hardcore parkour.
Yes. Yes.
The Ziggs version.
Ziggs version, yes. Hardcore parkour. So that's the end of the main champion changes. Um, there's a lot of other changes though. Many things that they changed a lot of items. So one thing that they got rid of was you want to talk about it, Jimmy? You want to talk about your favorite item, Tear of the Goddess?
Tier. All right. So they changed it. Like the first relevant change is it no longer gains stacks on change of forms, like Elise's spider form to human form and vice versa. Nidalee's aspect of the cougar, and my favorite, Jace's transform from his hammer to cannon.
No! Yes, that was actually a pretty big change. I actually didn't even know about that change until one of the LCS games where they mentioned it, and I was like, what? And then the Bass patch came out, and they didn't actually have it in that patch, so I was extra confused. And then now reading these patch notes, I realized what they meant. Did anybody really understand what they meant by the hit delay normalized?
Hit delay. What do you mean by hit delay?
Exactly what's next on the patch notes. The following abilities have had their hit delay normalized.
Weird. Maybe it's just
So
like
what that means is they normalized they fixed kind of like the sync between when the effect would happen between these skills and like when like visually stuff would happen.
Okay. Oh, I get you. Okay. So they made it
So-
so Bran, Leona, Swain, and Vhagar, all their Dark Matter, Nevermore, Solar Flare, and Pillar Flame now all got normalized to what they used to be.
Well, not what they used to be, but it's more consistent between what's going on visually and
Oh, I got you. Yeah.
when effects are triggered.
You're right. You're right. Exhaust got changed, so now when you cast it on someone who can't be slowed, it'll tell you something like can't be
Can't
slowed.
be slowed.
And they should have an announcer actually say can't be slowed.
No, because then it leads down that slippery slope of like, well, why doesn't every champion announce their ultimate name when they cast it? That's awesome, right? And then you have like all 10 people casting their ultis together, and you're
it's
confused.
just a clusterfuck.
Sad. And then you get all sad.
And while everybody's casting their ultimates, Chase just in the corner, transform, transform, transform.
Oh god damn.
Oh my god, that'd be dumb.
Or when Singed is running around with his poison, it's like poison, 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 poison.
Mushroom.
Ah, no,
mushroom.
nobody wants any of that.
Nobody wants that. Spence, you want to talk about the war changes?
The ward changes, certainly. because I play support pretty regularly, so wards kind of impact me quite a bit. For starters, vision and sight wards are now worth 30 gold instead of 25, which can be, I mean, that doesn't bother me terribly since I focus on starting off with more gold with my rune setup, but for some that could be a bit of a pain. Wriggle's Lantern Ward is now worth 20 gold instead of 15.
Which is nice.
Yep. The reward structure for killing any wards, it's been changed like this. If you kill off a ward, the killer gets 50% of the base gold value. So that's pretty good. Any nearby champions, allies, with Oracle's Elixir or that placed vision wards, they split 50% of the gold value.
So, it
So
helps
basically,
supports.
yes, it helps support a lot, which I think personally is a really, really good thing. To make up for the price increase on the different wards, we now have a way to get some of that gold back. So that's always good.
Exactly. And a lot of people were just feeding the ward gold to their AD carries and stuff. And, that's all nice and dandy, but supports need some money too.
We need some love.
Need some love. And, of course, the Oracle's change we talked about earlier. Overall,
Right.
awesome.
It's going to definitely be a big game changer.
Yes. They did change tier, as we were talking about earlier. They didn't just change it on like moves it didn't work on. They also changed the item itself a little bit. Do one of you guys want to talk about that?
I'll talk about that. So what happened overall is like instead of the charge being like the cooldown per charge was increased to 4 seconds instead of 3, and that makes it so that like you have to wait 4 seconds before like just spamming a spell. As far as Manamune, they reflected that as well, and what's it called? In Archangel Staff, they actually increased the mana gain to 8 from 6. So the reason I wanted to go into that is one of the characters that I play every once in a while, like Yorick, this actually is a nerf to like characters like him that really depended on Tear the Goddess, and he was able to throughout like he was able to use skills that were like around 3 seconds to just get it. So it's going to take him a little bit longer to ramp up to a full Manamune and stuff like that.
Most definitely. And Manamune was getting really strong. It was a really strong item.
Mhm.
They definitely made sure to not punish the AP side because they actually upped the value of each cast, which is good because they nerfed the amount of the amount of spells you can cast per second to get mana.
Mhm. It's also kind of an indirect nerf to say character to Rise as well, if you think about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because he spams a bunch of his spells.
Yeah, and he actually scales off of mana. So
Hmm.
I agree.
I don't know how this affects the blue Ezreal build, if any. So
I think
It
it
might.
barely affects it.
I think it'll nerf for a little bit. Once again, not too much because he's still gonna get that item late game with all the power. So it's not the biggest nerf for him. Um, they changed 2 AD items, which I really like. Uh, you want to go ahead and talk about that? One of you guys? It isn't Shiro.
I'll talk about them all because I actually know a little bit more about that. I think with the buff on it, it makes it a little bit more viable for top laners just because it gives you a lot more rewarding stats than original Maul did. And it just rewards you for such an expensive item in the late game. Like, it gives you a lot more flexibility on how you rely on it. Or, like, if you need the passive attack damage, usually.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely. It's overall just a great change. In my opinion, I'm a top lane main, so for me, when I saw this, I was extremely excited because it's just an overall buff. There's nothing on it that's actually nerfed except for use 5 AD when you're like close to dying. Whoop-de-doo. Because it just has an additional 5 AD, just has an additional 4 MR. It's easier to get to the 35 AD than it was before to get to the 40. And they fixed a bug, which is when you upgraded it from Hex Drinker, the cooldown wouldn't automatically reset, where now it does.
Hmm.
Um, Black Cleaver is much more of just, I guess, a bug, because people like Jarvan and other characters that deal bonus damage on hit would just could apply more than one effect of the Black Cleaver.
I think it's just mainly Jarvan, because Jarvan's attack
Yeah, I
animation.
can't really think of anybody else. You want to talk about Death Streaks there, Spence?
Death streaks?
Yes.
Yeah, why not? Basically, all right here. Death Streak gold values, they've reworked it a little bit. It'll to work with in line with preseason 3 values. Here's an example. A player gets killed 3 times in a row without resetting. He's now worth 220 gold instead of 182. And a player who's killed 6 times in a row without resetting is now worth 112 gold instead of 62. So we're getting quite a bit more gold for your kills.
Essentially, what was going on is teams that were like so far behind were able to catch up, because when they died, they were only giving them 15, 20, 30 gold. Hardly
Which wasn't helping anything, really.
But if they got a kill for it in response, they'd be getting like 800 gold because they get the additional 500 or something for a killing streak. So they're making games too easy to come back from. So they're resetting these, which I really like. I definitely feel like they're punishing the better. They're rewarding a better player, because if you're a better player, you should be winning more, and this definitely helps that happen. So.
And the last little change they made is the minimum kill value of a champion has been increased to 50 gold instead of 15, as you just said before.
Exactly. Which is
awesome.
Very nice. Here we go, Shiro. I know you've been wanting to talk about this.
All right, map-specific balance changes. They've only done one for each map, Crystal Scar and Twisted Treeline. So they basically nerfed the problem characters in those maps. Singed was the huge problem character on Twisted Treeline. So what they did is his armor per level was reduced to 2 from 3.5 on Twisted Treeline. Early game, it's not going to affect him that much. He'll be a little bit more susceptible to Darius, but as the match goes on, he'll definitely need to invest earlier in armor. The real big nerf, though, was Insanity Potion cooldown was increased to 120 seconds from 100 on Twisted Treeline. A whole 20 seconds is so much time on Twisted Treeline.
Especially on Twisted Treeline.
Yeah, given how fast-paced that map is, that is a killer right there. I think that is it enough to bring Singed down to a good level? We'll have to see, because Singed still has a couple of really gnarly mechanics, like his old poison trail and being able to farm passively and stuff like that. So we'd have to see on Twisted Treeline. For Crystal Scar, the Kassadin nerfs, they've acknowledged that these are not enough for what he does on Crystal Scar. His Rift Walk cooldown has been increased to 987 seconds from 765 on Crystal Scar, which it's not that much on that map. And the Rift Walk range was reduced to 600 from 700 on Crystal Scar. Again, not that much. So they have stated that they're going to look at Kassadin and nerf accordingly.
They've actually stated that they want to do more changes to these specific maps, I should say. So in the following patches, they have said expect more character changes to these map specifics. So
I just hope that they leave Sentinel alone, because those nerfs are harsh.
I feel like this really is enough, because his armor, getting up to whole 1.5 armor level, that's quite a bit. That's losing, what is it, an extra 30. No, I'm sorry, I'm bad at math. You're losing 1.5 in armor, so 15, 8, 4, 12, 30. You're losing an extra 30 at level 18.
Yeah.
God, I'm bad basic math. Leave me alone.
Yeah, like I said, it's not going to really affect Sin's early game, which is pretty terrible, to be quite honest. But like I said, you could remedy that with items. The Insanity Potion, that's a little bit harder to remedy with items since Singe does not get too much CDR reduction, barring like something like a Frozen Heart or something like that.
Exactly. And finally, the last change, they're adding an extra item to ARAM, everybody's favorite game mode.
I love it. I love it.
I enjoy it, but you know, they're adding a cloak. The poke is just becoming too strong in ARAM, and it's getting too tough for people to win when you get screwed over and get like a Garen, a Jarvan, three other ranged champions, Maokai.
Not Master Yi, actually.
No, Master Yi is amazing on the map. The two other like you know, and then you're forced against like a Master Yi and a Nidalee. What do? Nothing. You lose.
You're just like, I'm a melee character. Yeah,
you cry and then you lose.
Yeah.
No, you go into fetal position, then you lose.
Exactly. So they're releasing this item. It's a total cost of 2,080. It gets you 2 rejuve beads and a Negatron cloak. It gives you 70 MR, 20 health per 5, and a shield that absorbs damage. And the shield will return after not taking damage after a periodic amount of time. So that's pretty nice. Definitely will help you out. I feel like it's gonna be like a must buy almost every game because
a shield is really nice.
Yeah. Exactly. It's because it's just a shield. It doesn't necessarily specify versus ranged attacks or spells. So
I wonder if later if the orb is too much of a problem, which I highly doubt. If they change like the wordings, like grants a shield that absorbs some magic damage instead of just straight damage.
Yeah, they might change that a little down the line, but we'll have to see.
I don't think so. You still have Jace that can poke, so you know,
that is true.
Physical damage.
Well, no. They could say instead of magic damage, they could say spell damage. Spell damage is any because it's like spell vamp. Spell vamp will heal you no matter what spell you use as long as it's a spell.
Right.
Okay.
So if it's like a spell block, it could be the same thing. So.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Just like Silver's W is a spell shield. It blocks any spell. So that's all the basic changes, all the main changes, I guess. The rest is just kind of BS other stuff that no one.
BS other stuff. Like one of the things that I was really happy about was the scaling on PvP.net, but like I mean, we're not gonna cover that. So
that's right. You can scale now PvP.net. I completely forgot. That's actually pretty nice. I actually do like that. I didn't even really think about that. So, good call. Good call.
Wait, what can you do now?
All right. PvP.net will automatically scale itself down to 11 to certain resolutions, whichever is most appropriate. The most common desktop resolutions that will see their experience impacted are 1366 by, well, you can see the resolutions on the patch notes. What that means is, like, it'll essentially, like, you know, look a little bit better.
The issue was when you started up the loader on smaller screens, it would take up the whole screen and sometimes kind of cut off the bottom of the bar, cut off the top a little bit, and that was getting really annoying for people.
Okay.
I remember myself when on my old screen that used to be an issue. So I'm pretty glad that they did that. It helps a lot of people out probably.
Whoa. Holy crap. I have something to go into real quick after, so I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no worries. That's all the basic changes. You can go ahead and go into it, Spence.
I just thought he had something else to say first, and I kind of cut him off, and I feel bad about that.
Oh, no worries.
I just noticed this now. I hadn't read this part. I only read the stuff that you called relevant earlier. But a general change, the load screen now includes the summoner icons, the progress bar's been removed, and the ping has been removed.
Yes, they did do
so
that.
So people can't give you shit for your ping.
Yeah,
that saddens me. That really saddens me.
It's to remove toxic players who are like 400 ping, scrub, you know. And I kind
Stop downloading the porn.
Exactly, and I kind of understand where they're coming from, but I don't really think it was needed. I think having a summoner's icon there is kind of nice, but
yeah, I guess I'll have to see what it looks like, you know, because how they incorporate the summoner icon and whatnot.
Yeah, I played a game with it yesterday, and it was pretty nice. It looks a little nice. It's weird not seeing other people's ping, but hey.
Yeah, man.
Like you said, though, removes toxic players, and I think that's a good
It's kind of like the change where your opponents can no longer see a failed surrender. It makes me sad.
Yeah, like I mean those kind of changes. Like I understand
that does make you laugh.
I was always a big fan of, in solo queue especially, you see your opponents trying to surrender. You don't be a douchebag about it, but you kind of are like, huh, they have people who don't really want to play this game.
Yeah,
anymore.
it lets you gauge enemy morale.
And people don't judge morale enough in this game. I feel like it's actually something that
If you're subtle about it, you can totally troll them too.
exactly. Shout outs to trolling, but not really because I don't like to troll.
Yeah, you know what?
Sure.
Trundle's alright. Trundle's alright.
Trundle's okay. So yeah, those are all the changes we basically had to talk about. Anybody have anything else they want to bring up?
I think we pretty much covered everything.
Yeah,
Yeah, we covered most of the stuff.
most of the stuff. So this is gonna be a pretty short podcast, pretty short cast about this stuff. In the future, expect these to be probably a little bit longer. We will be talking about patch notes. If this goes well, I'll probably start one up about just the current meta, different things. There's a lot of things to talk about in League. If there's anything you want us to talk about, just leave something in the comments down below. We'll get that to you. But I think for now, I think we're gonna finish up. So if you guys just want to introduce yourself one last time, any plugins, anything you want to say, you can go ahead and do so as well. We'll start on the left. Leon.
I mean, if anyone has more time, check out my stream on twitch.tv at Leon760. Much appreciated.
This was C2C. I have nothing to plug right now, so.
Got Shiro. And then we got Spence on the right.
Yeah, and I don't do, I mean, I play quite a bit of League, but I don't make a lot of videos related to it. I might someday, I don't know. But you can find my channel, youtube.com/Fuse4Spence.
Yes, and he has a great channel. Leon has a great stream. Shiro, we're going to get him involved with something once again. It's just a matter of time. For now, he'll
One
just
day.
keep loving that sandwich. Myself, you know me as Hero94 or Moose. You know, I've been streaming every day at twitch.tv/Moose94. You're obviously on my YouTube channel, but if you're not on my YouTube channel for some reason, my YouTube is youtube.com/Hero94. I've been streaming every day, streaming a lot of League, streaming a lot of Infinite Crisis. So make sure you check that out. Make sure you check on Leon's stream. Make sure you check out Spence's YouTube. With that, we are signing out.
And remember, click like and subscribe.